So I have some questions that I got from you. And the first one is operant conditioning is based on rewards and consequences. Are there certain rewards for animals that are more effective than others when going through the process of training a skill? So, yeah, the effectiveness of rewards can vary based on individual preferences, the nature of the task, but there are some general principles to consider. So, try to mark the behavior and give the rewards soon after. This will connect the action to the consequence more effectively. I think about trying to give feedback after giving a test or a consequence, right? So, if you do something wrong and the principal doesn't talk to you until a week later, it's not real effective. So, you have to wait a month. For testing results, you've probably forgotten a lot of the information. So I also consider high value rewards in my training. I create a hierarchy based on what my learner tells me. I use favorite treats, toys, social interactions, and it's all based on their preferences. The learner is the one that deems what is a punishment and what is a reward. So we can't tell them what it is. So, with that said, variety is important. It creates interest. It's what makes gambling so addictive. It's that powerful maybe at play. I'm also mindful not to train after they've eaten dinner, and I won't wake them up to train. I want to set them up for success, and every learner responds differently to various types of rewards. So, understand the individual preferences, their motivations, their learning styles, and that's going to set them up for successful operant conditioning. Number two, are certain dog breeds more susceptible to operant conditioning as opposed to others? Uh, I'm going to share this. I probably shouldn't. Look around your classroom at your peers, and I think you'll find your answer. I have to admit something. I sometimes identify students as different dog breeds in my mind. So, you know the working and herding breed type, right? They were developed for specific tasks such as working or herding, and they show a high level of intelligence and they're workaholics. So, think border collies, German shepherds, Labrador retrievers. I'm referring to the working lines. Okay, there's also other lines which are no longer intended for the original job. So you may have a couch potato Labrador retriever. I'm not talking about that, but I also think that you can probably look at a classmate and go, "That's the couch potato lab," and it may take a lot of consequences to get them to do anything. And remember, when I use the term consequence, that could be something desirable or something unpleasant. It's all in an attempt to change behavior. Do you know terrier types? They're determined, they're tenacious, and it can pose a lot of challenges in learning. It also means they can be motivated and responsive to consequences. How about those toy breeds? Do you have any toy breed friends? The smaller toy breeds, they have a lot of different temperaments. Some individuals may be more independent. Some have little dog syndrome, if you know what I mean. I've also worked with some little dogs that kind of had a blank stare, but they're really good at snuggles. Sight hounds, think about greyhounds, whippets, they're very independent. Some people would say that they're more stubborn in training. I don't really believe in the idea of stubborn for dogs. I believe it's about communicating. We have to tell them what we want in a way that makes sense to them. So it takes a really savvy, more experienced trainer to work with these breeds. And think about guardian breeds, Great Danes, Mastiffs. They exhibit a more independent, aloof temperament. But for any of these breeds, operant conditioning works. It's how we learn. It's our ABCs. There's an antecedent, the thing that causes the B in behavior, and then the C in consequence. I like working with the really strong working types. They're motivated to work and learn. They're not for everyone, but I enjoy that number two sharpened pencil, instead of the couch potato. I mean, at this point in my life, breeds meant to assist and work with humans are the ones that you'll have easier time seeing results with your training. It's important to note that individual differences within breeds are significant. Factors such as the dog's age, previous experiences, training methods they were used from owners, that can also play a crucial role in the dog's responsiveness when you're talking about operant conditioning. And then early socialization, consistent training efforts, all of that's going to contribute to their overall trainability. But regardless of the breed, you need to tailor the training of the individual dog's needs and preferences. That's the key to successful operant conditioning. Number three, how long would a dog need to repeat a trick for extinction to not occur? So, second part. Is it important to repeat the trick over a longer period of time, more spread out, or is it better to do a bunch of repetition in a more short-term span? Okay, so both short-term and long-term repetition can be effective, but they serve different purposes. So short-term repetition in a single training session can help reinforce the initial learning, while long-term repetition over multiple sessions helps solidify the behavior over time. Repetition is essential, but overloading a dog with too many reps in a single session, it's going to cause fatigue, frustration, or disinterest. And we saw that with Radish. I went too long trying to get to the next step in the trick, and it's often more effective to keep training sessions really short. So anecdotally, I have found it best to do several short sessions. Then I do one right before bed, so the timing is important. So right before bed, then right when I get up in the morning, then I go to work, I put them to bed for the day, and when I get home, I do another session and I end my sessions with play. So I do this for a couple days until I have a really nice behavior, and then I put it away for a couple days. I kind of let it soak a bit. And then almost always we go back one step in criteria and we make huge breakthroughs this way. So that little bit of break, it's like it gives it time to kind of soak in and kind of become new information. I applied this same skill to trying to learn something myself and also teaching in my classroom. There's probably a term for this that maybe Mrs. Pizzelli knows, and she can fill you in on my lack of psychology concepts here. When I get the concept of fluency, I can go years and bring the behaviors back out. I think it depends on how fluent you have taught the behavior. So to use the cliche, I learned how to ride a bike when I was a kid. And I did a lot of, cool stuff. I would jump ramps and do tricks. I went over a decade before I rode a bike again. And even though I wasn't ready to stand on the seat and ride, I could definitely ride my bike again and pop wheelies. And after a couple minutes, I was hands-free riding. And on the other hand, I played the guitar in college. I never got to fluency. I was okay. And when I tried to play the guitar again a decade later, I could maybe play two chords and it sounded awful. So it's going to take a lot of practice just to get, back to where I left off. So it's about the fluency and how you created the initial behavior. Number 4, how do you overcome when a dog shows fear or anxiety related behaviors, and can conditioning help with these issues? I seek professional help with fearful dogs, but I do try to set them up for success by observing what they are fearful of. I learn their body language so I can predict when they're going to struggle, and I limit the things that trigger those feelings. I then work on building confidence through movement pattern puzzle games, counter conditioning, consistency. These are the dogs that really need patterns, routines, and consistency. That consistency is what builds the confidence and it lets them feel safe. When I have pattern games set up and they're gaining confidence, I'll thoughtfully introduce them to low-level things that cause the initial fear. And the best answer to this is to be excellent observers. So many times we don't know to look for the signs our dogs are giving us that they are uncomfortable. They have to really be upset and become dramatic with their fear signs to show us and help us realize their feelings. So I wish there were more opportunities for our community to learn how to read our dogs. Number 5, how do you properly engage the dogs in acquisition, because sometimes the dog might not want to learn? I think other than learners that are kind of neurodivergent or not the typical brain, our dogs are predators and they share the common traits or desires that we do of hunting, foraging, and problem solving. And they enjoy problems and want to learn. So I ask myself, why would my animal not want to learn? So this seems to often be a result of too much pressure in the training, and that causes them to suppress and kind of draw within, or the environment is too much. If my dog can normally take treats at home happily, but when I'm somewhere else, they can't take the treat the same way, that's information. It's not that they don't want to learn, they're too overwhelmed to learn. I think the first thing to address here is, why do they not want to learn? And this may take a lot of learning on the human's part to observe what is going on. It's tough because they can't tell us with words, but they sure can once we learn their body language. They're always trying to talk to us. They're brilliant at reading us and finding our patterns. We're very predictable. Number 6, could you condition a dog simply by the sound of your voice and not a simple one-sound command? Dogs are highly responsive to human voices. They can learn to associate different tones, pitches, patterns within various meanings. It's often referred to as voice or verbal conditioning. I think you saw this with all my different reward markers and how I could use tone as well. They're really highly attuned to human communication. Our cues, our variations, it's that tone, pitch, volume. So we have to be consistent in the way we use our voice, so that way we can effectively communicate with them and appropriately condition. Number 7, do dogs really learn or understand, or is it subconscious telling them they are supposed to do something? For sure, dogs are capable of both learning and understanding, but the nature of their cognitive processes kind of differ from human understanding. So they learn through a combination of associative learning, observational learning, responding to cues. They don't have the same level of abstract reasoning as we do, but their ability to learn and understand certain concepts is really well documented. They excel at associative learning. They're linking behaviors with consequences. When I say sit, they react by putting their butt down. I've reinforced that behavior. They make choices, though, and I provide a lot of opportunity for those choices. So that's how I feel confident that learning has occurred. If it was subconscious, they wouldn't make choices, right? So it's raining. I say sit, and Radish doesn't want to sit because she's in a puddle. So she made a choice to not sit and not get the reward because sitting in a puddle, it's going to take a high level of reinforcement. And she knew I didn't have anything great. So I've also seen dogs that learn from other dogs or humans. An old experienced dog to teach young dogs is invaluable. They teach the youngins how to dog in my world. Dogs demonstrate problem solving abilities, especially in tasks related to obtaining food or overcoming obstacles. So, this suggests a level of cognitive flexibility and adaptability. And their skill at reading humans and canine body language blows me away. Maybe they can't understand abstract concepts in the same way we do, but their ability to learn and understand specific cues and associations, that's all a form of cognitive processing. So the learning process may involve a combination. You've got conscious and subconscious elements, but overall, dogs are super intelligent animals. They can form associations, they can adapt to their environment, they can respond to cues. 8. Are humans really intelligent, or is it just we have been conditioned by society to think and act in certain ways? Intelligent and conditioned in certain ways. So the question of human intelligence is pretty complex, right? Because you're talking biological and environmental factors. So intelligence is multifaceted. It's going to encompass cognitive abilities, problem-solving abilities, adaptability, learning capacity, just the brain itself, its structure, the interconnected neural networks. That all contributes to the capacity for higher order thinking. But I think intelligence is deeper. It's tied to our emotional intelligence as well. Then we have cultural and environmental factors. It's all significant. So we have societal influences, education, exposure to diverse experiences, access to resources. Think about our socioeconomic. So all of that contributes to cognitive development. So the capacity for abstract thinking, problem solving, language, that's really what sets us apart, what sets humans apart, and allows for complex societies, technologies. But you can't leave out cultural conditioning, because that does play a role in shaping individual and collective behaviors, our thoughts, our beliefs. And I know it gets into more sociology, but societal norms, values, expectations, it's all influencing how people perceive intelligence. And so, what behaviors are considered intelligent with our culture, the given culture you're referring to. So think genetics, environment, individual experiences, and then how our culture defines intelligence. I don't know if I even answered that. That was a good question. Is there a certain unconditioned stimulus that dogs have an already heightened response to? Yeah, so dogs, like a lot of animals, have certain unconditioned stimulus, or UCS, and they elicit strong, instinctual responses. And we've selectively bred our dogs for these UCS. So some breeds have a more developed natural instinct to seek and consume food. And the presence of food can trigger these real strong responses, like excitement and salivation and focused attention. So, yeah, I'm looking at Labrador retrievers. There are some that have a real keen sense of smell, the scent of other animals, and it evokes strong reactions. So the sniffing, tracking, investigative behaviors, beagles, terriers, the earth dogs, they live by their olfactory system. Dogs are often responsive to the sounds of other animals, whether it's barking of other dogs, the chirping of birds, the rustling of small animals, but they get alertness and excitement. So the high prey drive, like my Belgian Malinois, checkmate. So the slightest rustle in the leaves and he's on it, he's thinking forward thoughts. Also social. So dogs are social animals. The presence of other dogs or humans, that's a powerful unconditioned stimulus. Social interactions can trigger, the tail wagging, the playfulness, the submission. Some of you saw that. Radish had a smile. And so it's an appeasement grin that I captured. And she would grin at other dogs. So I predicted when she would grin and I would cue, hi, and then reward her. So she's a really social dog and wants to be with people. And it's important to note that while these are all stimuli, generally strong triggers for many dogs, there are a lot of individual differences. So each dog is unique. Factors such as breed, personality, previous experiences, that all influences their responses to unconditioned stimuli. Number 10, what has been the hardest conditioned response that you have had to train a dog? Oh, calm down. Hands down, that's the hardest thing I face. Trying to teach Checkmate to be calm around a decoy. He likes to bite the bad person. Number 11, what's an experience you have had where you have conditioned your dog to a response that generalization has taken place or the same response is evoked with a similar stimuli? I'm probably not answering your question. I'm not. But I have a story that came in my head. I taught Quinn to sit pretty. I thought we had it. And I thought, okay, verbal cue, pretty, he does it. And so I thought, let's go to another room. And I was in the hall. And what I didn't realize was he thought that sit pretty meant put his ear on a cabinet drawer. So when I said pretty in the hall, he left. And I was like, what? And he went, I was a few feet away, and he just went to the bathroom and he sat up to it and he put his ear on the cabinet drawer. And I'm like, he sat pretty, but why did he do it in there? And so it took me a second to realize that, oh, it's about, he thinks it's about putting his ear on a drawer. So that generalization thing, it was fascinating. He was a hard worker and so smart. I miss him. Number 12, what methods, if at all, do you use for negative reinforcement? Okay. When my Dutch Shepherd Yukon, he was the one that he's here next to me. When he jumps in bed before I do, he knows I'm going to get in bed, and so he jumps in bed. And so to get him out of bed, I blow in his ears, like just a little blow, and then he like bites at my face. He doesn't bite me; he's kind of at my face, and so I giggle, and then I blow in his ear again, and he bites my face. And then usually the third time, he like shakes his head and gets down. It sounds bad, but it's a funny little game. So I get in bed and he jumps up and he does like a forehead slam into me and he like flips over and we cuddle. He's a big dork. So me blowing in his ear is the aversive stimulus that's removed once he gets off my bed. I don't know. I guess it's not a good example though, really, because if it worked, the aversive was strong enough, he wouldn't do this every night. So it's not a great example, but it's a silly game and I guess whatever. 13. Are most dogs of the same breed similar in the way they learn a response? Yeah, breed tendencies can offer a lot of insights into their general characteristics. So I appreciate the uniqueness of each dog, and so always try to tailor your training to the specific needs and preferences of that dog. But I can predict a lot based on the breed, how they're going to act. We've selectively bred our dogs to create consistency, but a working line German Shepherd versus a show line German Shepherd is very different than like a service dog or pet German Shepherd. So even within those breeds, there's also more variability. 14. How long does it normally take for a dog to learn something new? Oh, you're going to hate this answer. It varies. It's based on the complexity of the behavior, the dog's breed, their age, prior experiences, their temperament. There's no one size fits all answer. Each dog is unique. And also the trainer. Like if the trainer is skilled, it'll be a lot faster than an unskilled trainer. Number 15. What made you want to start training animals? So my parents have an animal rescue. I've been around animals my entire life. We were terrible dog owners when I was young. We had a dog that was chained in the backyard and it died from flea bite anemia. Awful. It's so sad to think about it. Since then, you do better when you learn more and you know more. In college, I volunteered at the animal shelter. I rescued my first dog. When I moved here, I started teaching. I got my first house. I got Charles. We went to all the school parades. He was just solid. He wanted to do everything. So we tried agility. He made me want to do more things. I didn't know the dogs were even capable of doing those things. And then I rescued a German Shepherd, kind of as a foster. He was a mess. He wanted to bite everyone before they bit him. He lived in the woods. He needed baths every day to heal his wounds. He didn't have fur. He needed hip surgery. And so after he got better, I found out he needed a job. So I learned about Schutzen on the internet. I joined a club. Then I got a dog purposely bred for the sport that I fell in love with. And that was my Mighty Quinn, the ear, sit pretty guy. And when it was time for Quinn to retire, I got a puppy named Nakota, and he wanted to chase butterflies. So that's not a good bite dog. So my dad loved him. He lives with my dad now, and he's like the best bro dog ever. So then I got Yukon, and he was my replacement for the breeder. Hi, Yukon. But we tried a lot of sports together, and we ended up with search and rescue. I fell in love with search and rescue, but he's not quite capable of it. So then that's when I got Radish, because I love search and rescue now. But it's kind of fun to look back and connect the dots. I can't wait to see where my journey is going to go next. Number 16, do your dogs ever get cues mixed up due to generalization within sound, pronunciation, movement, etc.? Oh, yeah. With losing my voice recently, this has been really apparent. They have to guess a lot as to what I want. So I've been looking at my body cues, and it's fascinating to see what physical cues I provide that I didn't even realize I was doing. 17. Could the use of classical conditioning help dogs overcome fears or phobias, such as open stairs or fireworks? Yeah, classical conditioning can be a powerful tool. Counter conditioning is a specific type of classical conditioning, and it aims to change the animal's emotional response to a particular stimulus. And it helps them overcome, fears, phobias, anxiety-related behaviors. And it's a gradual, systematic process, and it requires patience and consistency. So you're trying to change the dog's emotional association with this fear-inducing stimulus, promoting a more positive and relaxed response over time. So there's some considerations. You have to be, consistent. You have to monitor stress levels, be patient, but also it may not work for every dog for every fear. So this is where I get professionals help and have to bring medications in the picture to help open them for training, and then slowly remove the medication. So this is where behaviorists are helpful. 18, do you find that positive or negative reinforcement works better in increasing, decreasing behavior through operant conditioning? So I rely heavily on positive reinforcement and being thoughtful about how I set up my environment. I follow a strategy in my training, refer to it as LIMA, Lima. It stands for least intrusive, minimally aversive. And that relies on finding techniques that allow as much freedom for the learner, the dog, as possible, and as few aversives, if at any at all, for the dog's learning experience as possible. And the humane hierarchy, that's a framework developed by Dr. Susan Friedman. It's used in animal training and behavior modification. It prioritizes methods that are the least intrusive and aversive while still being effective. So you're trying to ensure the well-being of the animal and promote a positive and humane approach to training. The humane hierarchy is often presented in a pyramid, so kind of imagine this structure, and the least intrusive are at the bottom and the most intrusive are at the top. And so at the bottom, it's about ensuring the animal's physical well-being. That's the foundation. So proper nutrition, vet care, health issues, any of that. The next level up is the antecedent arrangement. This involves arranging the environment. You're trying to prevent or minimize the occurrence of problematic behavior. So set the environment up for success. It reduces the need for corrective measures. Now, the third level up is positive reinforcement. The next level up is differential reinforcement of alternative behaviors. So that's involving, you're reinforcing an alternative behavior that's incompatible with the unwanted behavior. So this helps to redirect the animal's behavior in a positive direction. And kind of part of that is also differential reinforcement of incompatible behavior. So it's similar to the DRA, but it's about ones that are incompatible or incompatible with the undesired behavior. So make the unwanted behavior less likely. And extinction is the next level up, and it's about removing reinforcement for that undesired behavior. So that's going to decrease the occurrence of that behavior over time. Along with that, on that level, is negative punishment, and also removing a positive stimulus, right? So following an undesired behavior to decrease the likelihood of the behavior recurring. It's less intrusive than the last or the top level, and that's your positive punishment. And we try to stay away from that as much as possible. I rarely use that. That goes to the next question. Do you believe that there are ethics that apply to dog training? I don't see a reason to use aversive methods for sports. I don't feel like causing pain to earn points and titles is worth it. Aversives have their place to save an animal's life. I think I kind of answered this one above. I should have read the question. Sorry. 20, why do some animals pick up on the classical conditioning faster than others? Why are dogs so commonly used compared to other animals? So different species may have varying levels of cognitive abilities, right, and learning speed. So dogs are quick learners because of their domestication, their close association with us. There are lots of laboratory studies training rats. They'd be excellent for olfactory tasks, but by the time you fully train a rat, their lifespan is so short, it's just not financially sound to use them. So dogs live longer. They can serve their purpose longer. For studies too, they can live in people's homes and then they can use them for studies, so it's also helpful. Here's some, if you want to check out some really cool training, I mentioned it, but I want you to check into Bob Bailey and Marianne Breland, and they're along with the Keller Breland, that was Marianne's husband, and he died and then she married Bob. They founded the Animal Behavior Enterprises like 1940s, I think, and their business focused on applying behavioral principles to trade a really wide range of animals. So they had a lot of domestic species, they had farm animals, exotic animals, but they did this for practical purposes and entertainment. And I know the questions about classical conditioning, but they go hand in hand. B.F. Skinner, check out Project Pigeon. They use pigeons to create guidance systems for missiles or bombs during World War II. That totally tickles my brain. 21, have you ever had to extinguish a conditioned response that you caused the dog to have or a dog came to you with? I would love to extinguish Checkmate's barking in the crate, but there's been a lot of repetition and there are a lot of big feelings tied into this. And it's just, it's going to be a hard one, right? Makes it really difficult because he keeps repeating the behavior and it's going to be hard to extinguish. I love the visual. So imagine taking a piece of paper and folding it. And I want you to try to fold it in half, but make it off just a little bit, okay? Now straighten it out and then fold it again. That paper is naturally going to fold at the crease. It's just going to keep creating that same crease. And that's like our habits in life, and same with our animals. And to change the way we habitually respond to the world, we have to make a new crease. So, have you ever tried taking that piece and then try to fold it in again, but now precisely right in the middle? The thing is, the more times that you folded it at the initial crease, the more difficult it's going to be to change the pattern. It takes a lot of deliberate intention to create a new fold or path to follow. So I personally lack the mindful awareness, the consistency for this, for this kind of work, unless it's something really important to me. So I'm sure there's something I've done, but I can't think of it off the top of my head. I'm sure it's like a minor scale thing, but I'm thinking big. Um, so yeah. Anyway, so that's the last question. These are awesome, you guys. Thank you for allowing me to spend time with you all. I will share the videos of Rad's final behavior. I didn't quite do it what you asked me to do. I have a warped sense of humor, and instead of playing dead and doing bang, I ask her, "Who's your pack leader?" And then she falls over. So anyway, again, thank you for having me. Good luck this semester. You're in excellent hands with Mrs. Bizzelli, and you guys are awesome. Thank you.